found a house that could serve as the first business, and it had a garage, and it seemed the right thing to do since there's a history of startups and garages. And this wasn't fully legitimate because it was a converted enclosed garage, but I considered it somewhat legitimate because it wasn't insulated. And so it was cold in there, and to solve the cold problem, the owners of the house, we were just renting this house, had installed a big pot-bellied stove right in the center of this garage, this converted garage. Later, when we got the fifth person moving into this small, had been a two-car garage, we had to move the pot-bellied stove out, and the thing must have weighed 800 pounds. Those were not impressive offices, and so when we had meetings with third parties, the most convenient place to have the meetings was a little cafe just down the street, only about a mile away. Well, I guess it's not really a problem, but the interesting thing about this cafe is that it was inside a Barnes & Noble store. So in fact, we did do all of our early third-party meetings at Barnes & Noble. The only other interesting thing from that first office is that, again, by the time we got about 5 people, there wasn't enough electricity in that garage because it just had one circuit breaker serving the whole garage. We had the place full of computers and other equipment. And so we had then taken long extension cords and run them from every room in the house into the garage. So we're siphoning the entire house's power into the garage to the point where, my wife couldn't turn on a hairdryer. I couldn't vacuum the living room. If anything like that happened, all the computers would turn off. So we were really getting to a place where we needed to move to a real office to finish up our software development. And we did that. This was a small office, actually about 1,000 square feet of office space, and we had we built our first warehouse space. It's about 400 square feet in the basement of this building. It was actually the Color Tile building in sort of an industrial section of Seattle. And I remember the day before we launched, we had everything set up and we had shelves in the warehouse, and there were no books because we were using at that time an almost-in-time inventory technique where we would order from wholesalers after customers ordered from us. Wholesalers would deliver to us in big boxes, and we'd break them down and ship them out in small boxes. Well, one of our programmers, I remember, was looking at this little tiny 400 square foot warehouse that we had set up the day before we opened, and he said, I can't figure out if this is incredibly optimistic or hopelessly inadequate. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, you're right. And so in fact, we believed that it was going to be incredibly optimistic. We had very low expectations for starting off and thought it would take a long, long time for consumer habit to adopt buying online at all. And in fact, we felt so strongly about this that we were trying to convince these wholesalers to make smaller shipments to us. They had what seems to be a very small minimum shipment size, which was 10 books. You had to order at least 10 books. But we were convinced it would take months and months to get to 10 books a day that we would be selling. So we wanted to, we said, can we pay like a $20 fee or whatever to get one book? They said, no. We didn't want to just go buy them at Barnes & Noble because we wanted to actually test and exercise our systems and so on. So we found a loophole. It was a great loophole. Turns out that with both of the wholesalers we were using at that time, that you just had to order 10 books. If you ordered 10 books, but 9 of them were books that they didn't happen to have in stock, they would ship you the one book. And so we figured out that there was this, both of them ostensibly carried this particular obscure book on lichens, but they didn't have it. So we tested all of our systems by ordering one book and then 9 copies of this lichen book.